Zikhona Tshona has been following that story. She's in the studio with us this morning as we look ahead at the final report by Justice Moseneke. Zikhona, good morning. What should we expect today?
So today, the former Deputy Chief Justice is going to detail exactly how much each family will be receiving from the state. We know that there's already been an agreement between the state and Section 27, as well as Solidarity, that families should be compensated an amount of 200,000 Rand. That's to cover the funeral costs as well as the emotional trauma that families endured during this process.
Would that be a minimum expected, that recommendation of 200,000 Rand per family?
Well, it's just an agreement between the two parties. Dikgang Moseneke was very clear in the sittings, the final day of the sitting, to say that that amount is not to say that that's the amount that the families will be compensated, particularly for those things. So it could be higher, it could be less, because we know that throughout the process, some families actually had receipts of how much they had spent during the process, in terms of some of them had to take their family members to private hospitals, the funeral costs involved of traveling family members from other provinces to come and bury their loved ones.
So now, one of the things he's going to be explaining today in his final report is exactly how much each family should be compensated.
Now, alarmingly, Bradan, in the state is arguing that it does not want to compensate family members for the violation on the part of the patients. It just wants to compensate the family members that are alive for the trauma that they endured, but it does not want to pay any money for the violation of human rights. That's the constitutional damages that the Section 27 is claiming for, the 1.5 million. The state does not believe that it should have to pay anything for the suffering that was endured by the family members. Now, Dikgang Moseneke very alarmed by this argument, saying that they're going to have to do a very good job in terms of convincing him that this, in fact, is a valuable argument, and that it could actually stand in the law, saying that in terms of South African law, people should be compensated for the violation of human rights on their personal part, and not for the people that are alive and what they suffer.
Zikhona, you mentioned the word human rights. On Wednesday this week, South Africa will be commemorating Human Rights Day. So this Life Esidimeni decision and the recommendations are coming just 48 hours before the country marks human rights. I'm sure the former Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke is going to make a point of that. Okay, besides compensation, can he make binding recommendations? Other than compensation, there could be other things that he recommends. Could they be binding?
They are binding. He did mention in the final day of the sitting that whatever he's going to release in his report today is binding. We know that there's already a police investigation underway investigating the top officials in the department that were directly involved in this tragedy. We don't know as to what his recommendations will be in terms of how the officials in the department should be dealt with. So we know that several of the officials, Dr. Makhabo Manamela, Dr. Bani Selubano, have already been interviewed by police to give testimony in terms of the role that they played in this project.
Okay, we just played a clip a short while ago, just before we spoke to you, of Dr. Makhabo Manamela, the former head of mental health, who was in charge of the location program. She definitely was one of the highlights in terms of what really came out as they were trying to dig, as the arbitration hearings were trying to dig into really who's accountable for this Life Esidimeni tragedy. Other highlights that stand out for you, other key moments as you look back?
I think for the most part, a lot of the family members have really felt that there was no truth that came out of any of the officials, Dr. Makhabo Manamela, Dr. Bani Selubano, as well as former Health MEC Dan Moyane, in terms of giving them the truthful account as to what led to this decision. Why were people forced to be moved from Life Esidimeni into these NGOs? I think one thing that does stand out for me, especially on the part of former Health MEC Dan Moyane's testimony, is when she made that slip of a tongue in saying that after she visited this NGO and already their people had died. So the Chief Justice poses a question to her to say, why didn't you then move the patients from this NGO back to a facility that was up to standard? Then she says, what was I supposed to do, Judge? Was I supposed to get a truck? Oh, sorry, that was a slip of a tongue. Was I supposed to get a bus to move these patients? Dikgang Moseneke asking her, why is your first reference a bus, former MEC? And then she said that
a truck,
no, it was a truck. And then she continued to say that it was a slip of a tongue. Now we know that patients were loaded on the back of bakkies, on the back of trucks like cattle. Another very memorable moment for me is the former head of Life Esidimeni who testified there to say that he went to Life Esidimeni. He wasn't told that the patients were going to be moved. And when we got there, patients were on the back of trucks, and he said, please, take these people off these trucks. These are people. And he kept on saying that these people, I love them, and I've been dealing with them for years. I don't know why they are being treated like this.
Well, we're going to have to wait and see. What time is the announcement expected to happen?
The hearings will get underway at around 9:30 this morning, but then they usually do start on time. Dikgang Moseneke is very strict about the way we manage the time around these proceedings because they do cost quite a lot of money for the state.
Yeah, there are a couple of aspects that we need to explore further, but we'll talk to you about that later on, just about how the families came through this whole process, how they handled themselves, and also we understand there are still missing people, but for now we'll leave it here. Thank you very much. That's Zikhona Tshona previewing the announcement later today of the final report by the former Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke regarding the Life Esidimeni tragedy.